Welcome. This is Leonard Lee, Managing Director of neXt. Thank you for joining today's Rethink webinar. And in this session, we will provide a review of the ITExpo 2018 event that took place in Fort Lauderdale, Florida from February 13th to the 16th. For those of you who are not familiar with neXt, let me introduce our firm really quickly. We are a San Diego-based boutique consulting and research firm focused on providing experience-based advisory services to inspire our clients' digital future. And we advise across a wide range of digital topics, drawing from the expertise and experience of our executive consultants and analysts. And today I'm honored to be joined by neXt principal Akshay Sharma. Akshay is a renowned industry analyst and consultant who has worked with some of the leading tech firms and was a research director with Gartner for 10 years. And as a principal with neXt, Akshay covers various domains including blockchain, network and data center technologies, IoT communications, security, and telco digital transformation. Great. So Akshay, you attended the ITExpo a couple of weeks ago. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the event, and maybe you can share some of the interesting metrics from the event.
This was probably, I think, my 6th or 7th ITExpo that I've attended over the years. There have been quite a few of these sessions. Luckily, I live in an adjacent town to Fort Lauderdale, so 20 was the miles I drove to get there. Unlike other venues, this was actually pretty short.
Yeah, like Barcelona, right?
Exactly.
My most recent trip.
Yeah, luckily you were there. And I know we're going to have an upcoming talk on Mobile World Congress.
Absolutely.
I did have the honor of being on 2 panels, one on cybersecurity and another one on AI chatbot. And both were very interesting discussions, especially cybersecurity, the need for behavioral analytics. And then for chatbots, these are the next gen version of a search engine, if you will, a natural language search engine. I think is next. And we're going to need more and more AI mediation platforms like what we did for voice over IP with session border control. I'm sure we're going to do the same with AI engines as well. 50 were the number of companies. ITExpo is renowned for having a lot of niche startups to the large corporate multinationals. I was even surprised to see China Mobile in attendance at an IT event in Fort Lauderdale. And then I had the privilege and honor of being one of the startup judges to award the Startup of the Year award. That will also be part of the discussion later on today.
So let's move on to the research topic. Maybe if you can give us an idea of what you tried to get out of the event and some of the topics that you wanted to pursue as part of your research agenda.
So I had the privilege of actually moderating the SD-WAN panel last year with Viptela, Versa Networks, Telstra, and quite a few others. Was pleased to see SD-WAN not only come back to the ITExpo, but even come back with its own mini conference within the mega conference. I also am a voice over IP person originally. Unified Communications as a Service has been talked about for years, and we're starting to see it morph beyond just voice to any type of session. Chatbots, we're starting to see truly unified communications as the name implies. And then chatbots, I was honored to be on a panel, learned quite a bit of the use cases there and the platforms. Was also part of a cybersecurity panel where behavioral analytics, and as you know, Leonard, we've done a webinar a few weeks ago on Spectre and Meltdown. What I'm gathering from my research and talking with various executives, you need a holistic solution. The one-size-fits-all approach of just buying a firewall or just getting a malware detection software on your laptop, that's not good enough. There's so many different attacks that we're getting, from denial of service attacks to phishing to botnets and whatnot, that we truly need to take a holistic view. Network infrastructure is back. Pleased to see a lot of vendors there talking from optical, data center interconnect, voice over IP platforms to even SD-WAN vendors. And then within the sessions, there was a blockchain event within the ITExpo. And as we know, blockchain is hot. And a lot of startups are there, a lot of new creative solutions are being created. And so these were definitely hot topics that I'm eager to research more, but have also published in prior white papers and seminars that we've done as well.
Great. Let's move on to our discussion agenda here. Number one, we'll have Akshay share with us his key takeaways and insight from the event. We'll then have Akshay share his top tech pick from ITExpo 2018. And then Akshay will share with us his predictions for 2018. And then finally, if we have some time, we'll have a short question and answer session. So let's move on now to our first topic here, which is the key takeaways and insight. Let's discuss the 6 takeaways that you walked away with this year. Let's start with your first one, which is blockchain everywhere. There's a lot of talk about blockchain, but quite honestly, there's nothing really happening with it. A lot of energy into thinking, ideation. Do you see any motion here? And why is this your number one takeaway?
Well, at the blockchain event within the conference, I was amazed at all the different executives coming on stage talking about different verticals, from healthcare to ad-based brokering to even HR, sharing people's resumes and their profiles across organizations. And if you look at the fundamental architecture of blockchain, it is a distributed ledger or a distributed database that's encrypted and secure with policy or smart contracts on top of it that define who can see what, when, and where. It is truly distributed, it's encrypted, it's secure, it's resilient. Someone changes something, it gets logged as a transaction, the beginning of time when that blockchain architecture was created. So it has a lot of potential. Now, you don't have to use blockchain if you wanted to share information in a secure way. But what we're seeing is newer ideas. So I got interviewed, for example, by a TV station talking about the Davos initiative, UN 2020, where every person on the planet will have an identification, and they want to use blockchain to securely maintain these databases of information like federated identity management, your thumbprint, your iris scans, your health records. There's a lot of potential. Now, there could be also potential for misuse too, but we're trying to find the key solution that blockchain's good for. Now, we know it's the basis for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. That's still very speculative, but without the cryptocurrency angle, I still see a lot of potential of blockchain just used as a distributed database with a policy engine on top.
Now, the next one is SD-WAN with virtualized applications. Is this an ongoing trend, Akshay? Is there some sort of tipping point happening that you observed at the conference?
So SDX, SD, software defined, we've seen that concept applied to many different domains. Software defined storage, software defined data centers. And now what we're doing is software defined wide area networks have been around for a while. But what we're seeing is now orchestration of applications in tune with the network. So if you need to burst on demand with video conferencing in Ultra HD, or if you need to have low latency requirements for a robot to do surgery remotely with HD or Ultra HD video, well, now we can have things truly be a turbo button experience. We're getting closer to that. Everything will be on demand. The network in sync with the app and the app in sync with the network.
The next one is AI with chatbot.
And here, what we're seeing is AI doesn't have to be this amorphous thing in the cloud like IBM Watson or what Google has with their TensorFlow logic or Microsoft with their engines as well. What we're seeing is this new notion that maybe we can be agnostic of the provider of the AI, and we truly want a natural language experience. And instead of having a search bar with predefined words like an SQL query, what we're getting to is unstructured query, where we can literally type and say, show me how many widgets I have in the warehouse, and it should show you that.
More of a conversational type interaction then, right?
Exactly.
Something that's, like you said, unstructured, that provides a different type of experience to the folks who are engaging with either a service or a product or what have you.
Exactly. And ideally, with these chatbots, like on a bank website or other websites, we should actually think we're talking to a human. But in many cases, we're not. And that's the true Turing test, if we can think we're talking to a human when we're actually talking to an AI chatbot.
I've bumped into several companies that are offering chatbots, but when you dig into the covers, sometimes you don't find AI there. It's really just basic scripting. They'll tell you that they're applying some sort of machine learning, but oftentimes it's difficult to really qualify that, or they can't speak to how the AI is really supporting this conversational interface. Did you find any companies that are doing something really exciting or differentiated with the AI? Because you know what? Everyone and their mother is talking about chatbot. I just can't subscribe to this idea that all of a sudden everybody has become an AI expert and is able to sit there and implement these meaningful implementation that go beyond just some sort of programmatic script.
Well, on the panel that I was on, and in fact, this was one of the startup cool vendors I met with on stage, was Chirp, CHIRRP.ai, who have a chatbot with IBM Watson, but they also work with Microsoft and Google. And what they have is basically a session manager where they log with analytics how good the experience was. So they'll actually do a survey and people can rate whether the quality of information is good or bad, and then decide which engine they should use.
So let's move on to the next one here, which is behavioral analytics for cybersecurity.
What we found here was it truly takes a holistic view to things. That we can't just put a firewall, we can't just put a denial of service intrusion detection mechanism or a malware detection, that we truly have to be all of the above and then some. We need to look at the IT administrators' login. We need to know what they're updating and uploading at 3 a.m. and from what IP address. Because who knows, they could have been hacked, their admin privileges could be used by someone else. The idea of behavioral analytics is to take a holistic view of the entire organization, looking at who comes in through the door, with what badge, access to what rooms they have, what are they typing in, what are they uploading from a software point of view. What type of devices do they use? Where do they use it from? Are they using it from their home address and you know their corporate phone happens to have that same location? Or are they logging in from North Korea when their phone is being used at their home location? Well, that's probably a tip-off that maybe something's wrong. These are the newer software AI tools. There were a couple of companies I've met at the show that are taking more of a behavioral view to cybersecurity.
So from a technological maturity perspective, where are we with the behavioral analytics platforms or functions within a security suite? Is this something that is pretty mature? Is it emerging? Where do we sit with this technology, Akshay?
Well, if I were to take our former employer's hype cycle, I would say we're headed up the hype cycle. So it's still emerging. We're still early stage. We're still trying to figure out what are the analytics that we should be data mining, from emails to even social network analytics. What is the person posting on YouTube's or on Facebook or other platforms or LinkedIn?
That's a lot of data to be collecting and mining through. If you think about the logs and being able to track that level of granularity in terms of network activity, that's going to be a data challenge.
Exactly. It was funny. One of the sessions we talked about that a human being can only look at maybe 500 logged transactions in a week. And yet we're talking of terabytes worth of data. And there's no way even teams of human beings can go through that. That's where the AI element comes in. You probably will have to have a rules engine that is adaptable and parse through a lot of these in seconds. Otherwise, it'll be unwieldy.
And let's move on to the next takeaway that you have here, which is the IoT platforms for SD-WAN.
Coupling the notion of SD-WAN, software-defined wide area network, let's bring it back home or back within the enterprise. We're going to see a lot of sensors within the room with what's known as SD-LAN, local area network, being software-defined and being able to adapt based on needs of the local environment. There was a startup that was pretty cool presenting this notion of SD-LAN.
Okay, and how does this all relate to this emerging 5G promise that's out there? 5G is the big news of the year, I suppose, especially in the telco industry. How does this dovetail in with what's happening with 5G?
So as you know, 5G means everything to everyone, and you were there at Mobile World Congress. So depending on your perspective, you've got a 5G story. So people who are in the millimeter wave at the higher frequencies are talking about 5G. But 5G also has a license-assisted access approach over Wi-Fi spectrum and on the lower frequencies. And then 5G also has this mobile edge computing notion, bringing compute power within nano data centers closer to the edge. 5G also has this notion of network slicing on demand, that nano data centers compute resources being used on demand. And then there's this whole NB-IoT, narrowband spectrum, being refarmed for IoT purposes. So connecting all these dots is going to be very complicated. With the Internet of Things, as we know, this was called machine to machine, M2M, 10 years ago. It's still there, but what we need is a lot of connecting of the dots to make sure the spectrum is efficiently used. Even cybersecurity is going to be a problem with IoT. Just because your dash button on your washing machine works, now you sell your washing machine to your neighbor, does that dash button still get charged to your credit card? And does the stuff arrive at your neighbor's house? There's a lot of nuances with IoT that still need to be addressed. And with this SD-LAN, this idea of connecting of the dots, connecting the access network, connecting the software-defined radio with cognitive radio, connecting it to the back office systems, there's going to be a lot of work that still needs to occur before we have true 5G services.
Great. So let's move on to the next one, which is AI needs session management.
Tag teaming off of the AI with chatbots session that I was on, this talk about having multiple AI engines in the cloud, whether it's IBM Watson, whether it's Google's TensorFlow or Microsoft, or maybe even some proprietary implementations from smaller vendors. What we're seeing is this notion that not one AI engine is good for everything. So what we found from the panel we were on, IBM Watson is great for very complicated and big type of data files, whereas Google is quick and fast with smaller data constructs and smaller language processing. Amazon also the same thing. And so this one-size-fits-all approach is not going to work. We pretty much need an AI router or an AI session manager that figures out what is the context and decides which engine has the best data to provide.
Let's move on to the next topic, which are your top tech picks for ITExpo. And let's start off with number 5 here, which is Fiber Mountain Optical Cross Connections for DCI.
Well, I was pleased that this was one of my Gartner Cool Vendor recipients I awarded a few years ago in our previous life, and I was pleased to see them at the show and progress quite nicely. And optical is sexy. Optical is back. We're seeing even Facebook with Microsoft build an optical transport network between the US and Spain, sub-Atlantic Ocean, with their own data center interconnect gear. Who would have thought Microsoft and Facebook actually building an optical network, managing it, and building network equipment? But of course, they're not equipment people. They're going to use companies like Fiber Mountain, Ciena, and others to actually connect the data centers. And what I was pleased to see is a company that truly is innovating with truly glass-based technology to interconnect data centers.
Number 4, looks like you have a tie here, which is Chirp AI for chatbots and Observables Inc. for IoT.
One is the IoT company, Observables, that has this SD-LAN concept, software-defined local area network, which I thought is intriguing. We've heard about SDN, we've heard about SDR, software-defined radio, and now let's apply it to the local area network. And so here's a company that truly is putting a lot of software smarts inside low-cost devices that can be truly within the enterprise, with voice over IP functions built in to low-cost devices, with a lot of sensor capabilities built into these devices. And then Chirp, I mentioned, is the AI chatbot, where they have this creative solution to do session management and analytics-based decision-making as to which AI engine they should invoke for which context. And it's truly learning on the fly based on customer feedback. They'll do a survey at the end. Was this session the right session? Was the data correct? And if it was, you can score it. They then can keep tabs as to during what type of natural language searching they've done with unstructured natural language type queries, what engine was good for what type of context.
Your number 3 pick was Versa Networks, SD-WAN.
Well, I was also pleased. This was another one of my Gartner Cool Vendor Award recipients a few years ago, and I was pleased to see that they've progressed quite a bit, winning quite a few accounts lately, from CenturyLink to Tata Communications and others. When I mentioned the idea of SD-WAN with vertical applications being virtualized and invoked as needed, this is what I was thinking of in the case of Versa Networks, who have truly orchestrated their SD-WAN solution with network functions virtualization on demand and orchestrating that as needed, bringing the network to the cloud and the cloud to the network.
Your number 2 pick was Mavet Blockchain Ad Exchange.
In the ad world, I found it very interesting to see blockchain applied to a whole new vertical like the fashion industry and retail, where apparently there's a lot of influencers on various sites like Instagram, Facebook, and other sites who are recommending newer fashion ideas. And how do you monetize that? How do you record and track in a secure manner their recommendations, and how do you connect all the dots? This is a whole new world of social analytics and targeted ads and monetization of influencers. And Mavet has a solution to do just that.
How long has this company been around, and how mature is their platform?
Yeah, it is a startup based in Palo Alto and has been around for a few years. They're actually going through the initial coin offering and learned a lot about the difference between an ICO for a cryptocurrency that's actually used as a utility token versus a cryptocurrency that's used as a security. They were very cautious to say it is a utility token. It's not as a security. It's not like they are giving you shares or anything like that, because that has regulatory compliance issues. But as a utility token with their smart contracts, they are trying to track who are the key influencers, so that if the fashion designer and the retailer want to, let's say, do some targeted ads or payment in that person's Instagram or YouTube, they can figure out other ways to monetize.
So let's move on to your number 1 pick, which is another tie. It's Be Kinder and Wellways.
Both of these are using blockchain concepts, but with kindness or helping people in their mindset. So Be Kinder has a blockchain technology called KindCoin, which again is a utility token to give someone a pat on the back. And the idea behind this is maybe some restaurants will recognize these KindCoins like a coupon or like a gift card that give you maybe 10% off for an ice cream or something. And so that's the idea of Be Kinder. It's a movement. There's a book being published on this idea, and a lot of celebrity endorsements are occurring with Be Kinder. Wellways takes that concept and takes it to another level. They actually have patents and an FDA approval of thermal imaging paper to do breast cancer detection, where they would have women put the imaging paper on themselves, wait for certain time, take a picture, and then send it in a encrypted manner through a blockchain distributed ledger architecture, where doctors or medical professionals can apply their knowledge. There's also some AI pattern recognition involved, where they can also learn from the doctors to detect what could be cancerous or not cancerous, come up with a diagnosis, and then there's some utility tokens to basically give the doctor a pat on the back for coming up with the right diagnosis. And hopefully this leads to saving lives, is the idea there. They have a trial with the Sloan Kettering School of Cancer Research, and other trials underway. So Wellways was actually the ITExpo overall winner of the Startup of the Year award.
All right, so those are your top 5 picks. Kinder Wellways came in at number 1, Mavet ad brokering and blockchain, Versa Networks for their SD-WAN solution, Chirp AI for chatbots tied with Observable Inc. for IoT, and number 5, Fiber Mountain for optical DCI. So thank you for sharing that list of picks for us, Akshay, and going through your insights and observations there. And let's move on to the third agenda topic, which are your predictions for 2018 and what you expect to see in ITExpo 2019. So let's move on to number 1, which is blockchain ICOs create newer solutions and monetization models.
We've seen at the blockchain event, blockchain being used for totally different verticals, from identity management to bandwidth management. A company called Spectrum Mesh was there doing that, to kindness, to even medical applications like Wellways. But at the end of the day, there has to be some sort of monetization.
Let's move on to your number 2 prediction here, which is AI platforms merge. A new AI session border controller emerges.
So from the AI chatbot session, where they have actually implemented a feedback mechanism to decide and learn which AI engine to use based on the context therein, I could see the same technology that we learned in the voice over IP arena, where we had different protocols, different platforms, and this notion of a session border controller was created, or a session manager with security baked in. And I could see the same thing occurring between AI engines. Should I use IBM Watson for complicated workloads, and then maybe using Amazon AWS or Google for other workloads, and then having a decision tree baked into a new engine that can decide which is good for what?
Number 3, optical is sexy again with 5G, Web 3.0 players jumping in.
Exactly. I mean, we've seen, optical come through its ups and downs in the 90s and early 2000s. It was really, really hot. And then later, in Nortel exited, optical was one of the divisions they basically had a fire sale with. And so we've seen some declines in this industry. But now that the Web 3.0 players like Facebook, Microsoft are jumping in with data center interconnect, and we're starting to see connecting these data centers becoming really, really critical, and doing it in laser speed, being all optical, being all glass based. That's pretty cool. And then with 5G, with these nano data centers coming up, the old central offices of the past being revectored as nano data centers at the edge for 5G, for IoT, for connected car, where latency matters, where we're going to have sub 5 millisecond type latencies. We have to be truly agile from not only a cloud-based point of view, but even an optical point of view, truly high speed, 100 gig and higher. We're going to need newer thinking in the optical gear that we buy from the vendors we buy from.
Number 4 is AI machine learning with behavioral analytics becomes part of cybersecurity.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, cybersecurity, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not just a firewall. It's not just an appliance. It's not just malware detection or intrusion detection. It truly is going to take a holistic view with all the different vulnerabilities that are being exposed almost weekly now, whether it's Meltdown Inspector, whether it's Devil's Ivy in some of the video surveillance gear that has been exposed, to even the smart cards in some of the Infineon-based processors that have been exposed. It truly is now going to take a holistic view of looking at every part of an organization, whether it's the video surveillance, whether it's the phishing attacks on their emails, to even social network analytics. Where is the person posting from? Where are they logging into the network from? What are they uploading? Why are they uploading that? And so we're going to truly look at things from a holistic view, and AI has to be the engine because of all the terabytes worth of data There's no way a human operator can look through beyond just 500 log in a week. That's probably the maximum they can do.
All right, so number 5, you have SD-WAN and SD-LAN for 2018.
Tag teaming on the 5G concept of basically everything becoming software defined with network slicing on demand, with access on demand, with spectrum needs on demand, application, HD video, ultra HD video, low latency video gaming on demand. We're going to see this on-demand world come about. Now, while we have software-defined data centers, we have software-defined wide area networks, within the building, the LAN, the local area network, has been pretty fixed. And now we're going to see tunability of the LAN on demand. We're going to be able to burst on demand and be able to have paid prioritization end to end.
Fantastic. Those are your 5 predictions for 2018. Thank you so much for sharing this with us, Akshay, and your efforts in covering ITExpo 2018. If you would like to find out more about the next Curve points of view on this topic and other digital topics of the day, go to our website. It's www.next-curve.com, and you'll find research notes, media, and replays of this and other webinars on our site. And you can also follow us on Twitter and YouTube. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and friend us on Twitter to get live feeds and coverage of industry conferences that we attend throughout the year. We have a number of services that we provide to help clients think through their next steps and how they can navigate their digital future. 4 primary engagement formats that we have. First are custom projects. We provide workshops and seminars. We provide virtual boardrooms and expert panels. So if you're interested in figuring out how to get NextCurve engaged in your digital conversations, please reach out to me. Here's my contact information. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Akshay, any last words for our audience?
Great to meet up with many of the folks here and even at the conference, and look forward to future discussions.